What would you do if your mother-in-law moved in and decided your home wasn't really yours anymore? She rearranged the kitchen, rewrote the meal plan, and criticized every dish I made. Every spoon, every spice, suddenly under her control. Thought I was being kind, patient, respectful. But now I'm realizing I was being erased. It was a Wednesday evening in late September, and the autumn air was just beginning to turn crisp. Through the window above the sink I was standing in the kitchen of our small apartment in downtown Chicago. The apartment door opened, and I heard Liam's heavy footsteps in the hallway. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Hey honey," I called out. "Dinner's almost ready." Liam appeared in the kitchen doorway, loosening his tie. He worked as an account manager at a marketing firm downtown, and his job kept him busy from early morning until late evening. At 32 he was ambitious, driven, and, according to everyone who knew him, destined for great things. "Smells good," he said, though his tone was distracted. "Mom's arriving Friday morning. He told me we'd pick her up from O'Hare. She's coming to stay. For a while. She needs help, Charlotte. Dad passed away 6 months ago and she's been struggling." "Liam, we only got married 4 weeks ago." "4 weeks. Don't you think we should have discussed this first? Hit the subscribe button, link and comment." That's when he'd finally looked at me, his dark eyes hardening in a way that made my stomach clench. "She's my mother, Charlotte. This isn't a discussion. She's family." I'd frozen, the dish towel slipping from my hands. "What do you mean, stay with us?" "Friday. That was only 2 days away." "Liam, where is she going to sleep?" "We only have 1 bedroom. She can take the bedroom. We'll sleep on the pull-out couch for now." My hands stilled on the wooden spoon. "For how long?" "I don't know, Charlotte. As long as she needs. Can you not make this difficult?" The edge in his voice made me swallow my next question. Instead, I simply nodded and returned my attention to the sauce, which was beginning to bubble too vigorously. I turned down the heat and wondered for the first time that day what I had gotten myself into. Liam and I had dated for 2 years before getting married. 2 wonderful years where he'd been attentive, loving, and thoughtful. We'd met at a community fundraiser in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, where I'd been volunteering at a food drive. Liam had walked in with his broad shoulders and easy smile, and within minutes, we were deep in conversation about everything from our favorite Chicago pizza spots to our dreams for the future. He'd proposed on the Navy Pier, just as the Ferris wheel reached its highest point, the city stretching out below us like a glittering promise. I'd cried happy tears, certain I was marrying my best friend. But in these past 4 weeks of marriage, something had shifted. Or maybe it had always been there, hidden beneath the surface, and I was only now beginning to see it. Friday morning arrived too quickly. I'd spent the previous 2 days cleaning the apartment, washing linens, and trying to prepare myself mentally for the arrival of my mother-in-law, Patricia Mitchell. I'd only met Patricia 3 times before the wedding, twice during brief visits when she'd come to Chicago from her home in Detroit, and once when Liam and I had driven up to visit her. Each meeting had been cordial but distant. Patricia was a tall, imposing woman in her late 50s with perfectly styled silver hair and a way of looking at people that made them feel perpetually inadequate. She'd worked as a school principal for 30 years before retiring, and she carried that air of authority with her everywhere she went. During our last visit, Patricia had walked through her immaculate Detroit home, pointing out all the details she was proud of. The crown molding she'd had installed, the antique furniture she'd inherited from her grandmother, the garden she maintained with military precision. I'd complimented everything, but I'd felt her eyes on me constantly, assessing, judging. "So, Charlotte," Patricia had said over dinner that night, "Liam tells me you work as a teacher's aide. That's nice. Do you have plans to become an actual teacher?" The way she'd said actual teacher had stung, but I'd kept my smile in place. "I'm taking classes at night. It's a slow process, but I'm working toward it." She'd responded in a tone that suggested she wasn't impressed. "Well, I suppose everyone moves at their own pace." Now, as I sat in the passenger seat of Liam's Honda Civic on the way to O'Hare International Airport, I tried to push those memories aside. Maybe things would be different now. Maybe Patricia would be grateful for our help and hospitality. Maybe this could even be an opportunity for us to bond. The airport was crowded as always. Liam navigated through the terminal with confident strides while I hurried to keep up. We found Patricia standing near baggage claim, a large suitcase beside her and a designer handbag over her arm. She was wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that looked expensive, and her makeup was flawless despite the early morning flight. "Liam," she exclaimed, her face lighting up as she embraced her son. "Oh my boy, it's so good to see you." "Hi Mom. How was the flight?" "Exhausting." The woman next to me talked the entire time about her cats. "Can you imagine?" She pulled back and finally turned to me, her smile cooling slightly. "Hello, Charlotte." "Hi, Patricia. Welcome. How are you feeling?" "As well as can be expected, given the circumstances." Patricia's voice carried a weight of suffering that seemed designed to invoke immediate sympathy. "It's been so difficult since Leonard passed. The house feels so empty. I just couldn't bear it anymore." "We're glad you're here," I said, though the words felt hollow even as I spoke them. The drive back to the apartment was filled with Patricia's monologue about her flight, her difficult neighbors in Detroit, and how challenging it had been to pack up her things. Liam listened attentively, occasionally murmuring sympathetic responses. I stared out the window and watched the city pass by. When we arrived at the apartment, Patricia's expression shifted from tired to critical within seconds. "This is where you live?" she asked, looking around the modest two-bedroom space. "Well, technically one bedroom now, I supposed, since Patricia was taking the master." "It's temporary," Liam said quickly. "We're saving up for something bigger." "I should hope so." Patricia set her handbag on the kitchen counter and surveyed the space with the eye of someone conducting an inspection. "It's quite small. And is that a crack in the ceiling?" I bit my tongue. Liam and I had worked hard to afford even this apartment in a decent Chicago neighborhood. The rent wasn't cheap and we were both carrying student loans. But to Patricia none of that seemed to matter. "Let me show you the bedroom," I offered, picking up one of Patricia's suitcases. "That's all right, dear. Liam can help me. Why don't you make us some coffee? I'm sure Liam has told you how I like it. Just a splash of cream, no sugar, and it needs to be hot. Not warm, hot." Before I could respond, Patricia had already swept past me, Liam following with the larger suitcase. I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to Patricia's voice drift from the bedroom. "Oh Liam, this comforter won't do. It's synthetic. You know I can only sleep on natural fibers. And these pillows, are these memory foam? They'll give me neck pain." I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Then I went to make the coffee. If I'd thought the first day was difficult, the first week proved to be exponentially worse. Patricia had very specific routines and she expected everyone in the household to accommodate them. She woke at 6 o'clock every morning and required the apartment to be quiet until she'd had her coffee and read the newspaper. The physical newspaper which Liam now had to pick up from the corner store every morning before work. She had strong opinions about everything. The temperature of the apartment too cold, the brand of milk we bought too watery, the way I folded the towels incorrect, and the arrangement of the furniture inefficient. On Monday evening I prepared chicken parmesan for dinner, proud of the recipe I'd perfected over the years. Patricia took one bite, set down her fork and said, "It's a bit heavy-handed with the seasoning, don't you think? And the cheese is overwhelming." In Detroit, we believe in letting the natural flavors of the chicken shine through. Liam quickly jumped in. "It's great, Charlotte. Really. Mom's just used to her own cooking." "Of course I don't want to criticize," Patricia continued, though that was exactly what she was doing. "I'm just used to a more refined palate. When you've been cooking as long as I have, you develop certain standards." Wednesday night I made a simple pasta with marinara sauce, determined to avoid any criticism. But Patricia found fault there too. "The pasta is slightly overcooked. See how it's just a bit too soft? Al dente is really the only way to serve pasta. And this sauce, is it from a jar?" "No, I made it from scratch," I said, trying to keep the defensiveness out of my voice. "Really? Tastes like it might have been doctored with something. Too much oregano, perhaps?" Have you ever lived with someone who made you question everything you do? The way you cook, fold, speak, even breathe? Sometimes toxic behavior doesn't come in screaming or insults. It comes in quiet corrections and suggestions that make you feel smaller every day. By Friday I was terrified to enter the kitchen at all. But it wasn't just the cooking criticism that wore on me. It was everything. When I was doing laundry, Patricia would appear and inform me that I was using too much detergent or not enough fabric softener, or the wrong temperature setting. When I was cleaning, Patricia would follow behind me, pointing out spots I'd missed or suggesting better cleaning products. When I was simply trying to relax on the couch with a book, Patricia would make comments about how some people had so much free time while others, meaning herself, were constantly busy with important tasks. The worst part was that Liam seemed oblivious to all of it. Or perhaps not oblivious, perhaps deliberately blind. One night after Patricia had gone to bed, I tried to talk to him about it. Liam, we need to talk about your mother. He was typing something on his laptop, barely looking up. What about her? She's very critical. About everything I do. The cooking, the cleaning, everything. She's just trying to help Charlotte. He has a lot of experience. Maybe you could learn something from her. I felt as if I'd been slapped. Learn something? Liam, I'm not incompetent. I know how to cook and clean. She's just impossible to please. Now he did look up and his expression was not sympathetic. She's going through a difficult time. She just lost her husband. Can you maybe be a little more understanding instead of making this about you? I'm not making it about me. I'm just saying that maybe she could be a little less critical. Maybe she could say thank you once in a while or acknowledge that I'm trying. Liam's jaw tightened. My mother doesn't need to thank you for basic hospitality. She's family. This is what family does. But I'm your family too now. Don't I matter? The question hung in the air between us. For a long moment, Liam didn't answer. Then he closed his laptop and stood up. I have an early meeting tomorrow. I'm going to bed. He walked past me without another word, leaving me alone on the pull-out couch we now called a bed. I sat in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the city outside. Car horns, distant sirens, the rumble of the L train. I thought about my own mother who had passed away when I was in college. My mother had been warm, supportive, always ready with a hug and encouraging words. My father, Pastor Michael Davis, had raised me alone after that, teaching me about faith, resilience, and the importance of family. Pastor Davis led a small but vibrant church in the South Shore neighborhood, and he was beloved by his community. I'd grown up in that church, surrounded by people who felt like family. My father had been so happy when I married Liam, giving a beautiful sermon at our wedding about the sanctity of marriage and the importance of choosing your partner carefully. What would he think if he knew how things really were? I couldn't bear the thought of disappointing him, of admitting that my marriage was already struggling after only a few weeks. I pulled the thin blanket over myself and tried to sleep, but rest wouldn't come. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon in early October. I had the day off from my job at Lincoln Elementary School, where I worked as a teacher's aide in a third-grade classroom. I'd been looking forward to having some time to myself, perhaps catching up on my coursework for the education degree I was pursuing through evening classes at DePaul University. But Patricia had other ideas. Since you're home today, perhaps you could help me reorganize the kitchen, Patricia announced over breakfast. I've been noticing that the current setup is quite inefficient. I'd organized the kitchen when Liam and I had first moved into the apartment, arranging everything in a way that made sense to us. But I forced a smile and said, sure, we can do that. For the next 3 hours, Patricia directed me to remove everything from the cabinets and drawers, critiquing each item as it was pulled out. Why do you have so many mixing bowls? 3 is plenty. This colander is cheap plastic. You should invest in stainless steel. These measuring cups aren't even a matched set. And what is this? She held up a spatula as if it were something offensive. This is so worn out. It should be thrown away. I watched as Patricia disposed of items that I'd bought, rearranged things in ways that made no sense to my usual cooking flow, and generally took over the kitchen as if it were her own. By lunchtime I was exhausted. I decided to make sandwiches. Surely that was simple enough to avoid criticism. But when I pulled out the whole wheat bread Liam and I usually ate, Patricia shook her head. Oh no, I can't eat that. Whole wheat gives me digestive issues. Don't you have white bread? No, we don't usually buy white bread. Patricia sighed heavily. I suppose I'll have to go without lunch then. My health has been so poor lately anyway. Probably stress-related. The implication was clear. I was adding to Patricia's stress by not having the right kind of bread. I can run to the store, I offered, feeling guilty despite myself. Would you? That would be so helpful. And while you're there, could you pick up some of those butter cookies I like? The ones from that bakery on Ashland Avenue? And some decent coffee beans. The ones Liam has been buying are too bitter. The bakery on Ashland Avenue was a 30-minute drive in traffic. By the time I got there, picked up the cookies, stopped at another store for white bread and coffee beans and drove back, it was after 2 o'clock. I'd missed lunch myself and had a headache forming behind my eyes. When I returned, Patricia was in the kitchen and something was cooking on the stove. "Oh good, you're back," Patricia said without looking up. "I started dinner since you were gone so long. I'm making my special chicken soup. It was Leonard's favorite." I set the bags on the counter, feeling a strange mix of relief and irritation. Relief that I didn't have to cook dinner, irritation that Patricia had just taken over. "That smells nice," I offered. "It's a recipe that's been in the Mitchell family for generations. Very specific proportions. You have to add the vegetables at exactly the right time, or the whole thing is ruined." I nodded and started to put away the items I'd bought. I was reaching up to place the coffee beans in the cabinet when Patricia suddenly spoke sharply. "Not there. I just reorganized. The coffee goes in the cabinet next to the stove." "Oh sorry." I moved to the other cabinet. For the next hour I tried to stay out of Patricia's way, but the kitchen was small and Patricia seemed to fill every inch of it. Every time I moved I was in the wrong place or doing the wrong thing. "Could you hand me that pot?" "No, not that one, the larger one." "The larger one. Do you not understand the difference? Could you stir this while I prepare the seasoning?" "Gently. You're splashing it everywhere. Watch what you're doing, you're standing right in front of the drawer I need to open." Finally, around 4 o'clock I gave up and retreated to the bathroom, the only place in the apartment where I could have a moment of privacy. I sat on the edge of the bathtub and allowed myself a few silent tears. After the kitchen incident, I realized that day, it wasn't just the kitchen she wanted to control. It was the house, the rhythm, the air. Maybe me. This couldn't continue. Something had to change. But what? Liam wouldn't hear any criticism of his mother. Patricia showed no signs of leaving anytime soon. And I felt increasingly like a guest in my own home. No worse than a guest. Guests were treated with courtesy. I heard my phone buzz in my pocket and pulled it out. It was a text from my closest friend, Jasmine Rodriguez, whom I'd known since high school. "Hey girl. Want to grab coffee this week? Feel like I haven't seen you in forever." I stared at the message. How could I explain to Jasmine what was happening? Jasmine had always been the strong one, the one who spoke her mind and took no nonsense from anyone. She'd been skeptical about Liam from the beginning, though she'd never said why exactly. Just a feeling, she'd claimed that. I typed back. "Would love to. Wednesday afternoon at Monroe Street? Round 3. Perfect. See you then." Having something to look forward to helped a little. I splashed cold water on my face, squared my shoulders and returned to the living room. Patricia was setting the table for dinner, using the nice china that I'd received as a wedding gift from my aunt. I'd been saving it for special occasions. "Dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes, Patricia announced. "Liam should be home by then. I've set the table. I hope you don't mind that I use the good dishes. I believe even everyday meals should be treated with a certain respect. It's how I raised Liam." I nodded mutely and sank onto the couch. I could hear Patricia humming in the kitchen, the sound of someone perfectly content in their domain. The following Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. I met Jasmine at Cafe Milano, a cozy coffee shop in the near north side where we'd been meeting for years. Jasmine was already there when I arrived, seated at our usual table by the window. She was wearing her hospital scrubs, bright purple ones with cartoon cats on them, and her dark curly hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. As a pediatric nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Jasmine was used to long shifts and little sleep, but she always made time for her friends. "There's my girl." Jasmine stood and pulled me into a tight hug. When she pulled back, her smile faded. "Hey, what's wrong? You look exhausted." I tried to laugh it off. "That obvious? Honey, I can read you like a book. Sit down and tell Auntie Jazz everything." We ordered our usual, a vanilla latte for me, black coffee for Jasmine, and settled in. For the first few minutes, we caught up on light things. Jasmine's chaotic shifts at the hospital, a funny patient encounter, the new apartment building going up down the street. But eventually, Jasmine set down her coffee cup and fixed me with a serious look. "Hey, enough stalling. What's really going on? And don't say nothing because I can see it written all over your face." I took a deep breath. And then, like a dam breaking, it all came pouring out. Patricia moving in, the constant criticism, Liam's dismissiveness, the feeling of being a stranger in my own home. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Jasmine listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned with each passing minute. When I finally finished, Jasmine reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Hit the subscribe button, like and comment. Charlotte, sweetie, this is not okay. I know it's hard, but she's been through a lot. Stop. Stop right there. Jasmine's voice was firm but kind. I know you. You're about to make excuses for behavior that doesn't deserve excuses. She lost her husband. That's terrible. But that doesn't give her the right to treat you like hired help in your own home. And it definitely doesn't give Liam the right to take her side over yours. He's just trying to help his mom. He's married to you now. You're supposed to come first. That's literally what he promised when he said his vows. I felt tears prick at my eyes. I don't know what to do, Jazz. Every time I try to talk to him about it, he makes me feel like I'm being selfish or unsupportive. That's called gaslighting, honey. And it's not okay. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, thinking. Look, I wasn't going to say anything, but remember at your wedding reception, I overheard Patricia talking to some of Liam's aunts. She was saying something about how she hoped you'd toughen up, because the Mitchell women are known for being strong. Like it was some kind of test you needed to pass. My stomach dropped. She said that. Word for word. And the aunts were all nodding along like it made perfect sense. I wanted to say something then, but it was your wedding day and you looked so happy. I was happy. My voice was barely a whisper. God, Jazz, what did I get myself into? Hey, don't do that. You married someone you loved, that's not wrong. But maybe he's not quite the person you thought he was. Or maybe his mother brings out a different side of him. Either way, you need to set some boundaries. How? Every time I try, I'm the bad guy. Jasmine was quiet for a moment, then said carefully, have you thought about talking to your dad? No. My response was immediate and sharp. I can't tell my dad. He was so happy about the wedding. He gave that whole sermon about the sanctity of marriage and choosing wisely. How can I tell him I failed after only 2 months? You haven't failed. Marriage is hard and this is an unusual situation. My dad is Pastor Davis. Do you know how many couples he's counseled? How many marriages he's helped save? If I go to him and say mine is already in trouble, it'll break his heart. Or, Jasmine said gently, it might give him a chance to help you. He's your father before he's a pastor, Charlotte. He loves you. I shook my head. Not yet. I need to try to fix this myself first. Hey. But promise me something. If things get worse, if Liam or his mother ever make you feel unsafe, you'll reach out. To me, to your dad, to someone. Promise me. I promise. We sat in silence for a moment, watching people pass by the window. The autumn afternoon was beautiful. The trees along the street just beginning to turn shades of gold and crimson. Finally, Jasmine said, you know what you need? A girls' night. This Saturday. You, me and Keisha. Remember Keisha from high school? She's back in Chicago. I ran into her last week. We'll go to that new place in Wicker Park, drink some wine, remember who you are outside of being Mrs. Mitchell. I felt a small smile tug at my lips. That sounds amazing. But I don't know if I can. Patricia might need something or Liam might have plans. Stop. Right there. You're a grown woman. You're allowed to have a life outside your apartment. Tell Liam you have plans. He can handle his mother for one evening. You're right. You're absolutely right. I pulled out my phone. Saturday night. I'll be there. That's my girl. We finished our coffee and I felt marginally better as we said our goodbyes. Having Jasmine in my corner reminded me that I wasn't crazy, that my feelings were valid. But as I drove back to the apartment, the familiar knot of anxiety returned to my stomach. I was late. It was almost 6 o'clock and I told Patricia I'd be home by 5 to help with dinner. When I opened the apartment door, the scene that greeted me confirmed my worst fears. Liam was home, standing in the kitchen with his arms crossed. Patricia was at the stove, her face a mask of martyrdom. There you are, Liam said, his voice cold. Mom's been cooking dinner all by herself. She didn't even know where half the ingredients were because you weren't here to help. I'm sorry, I told you I wasn't feeling well today, Patricia interjected, her voice weak. I mentioned this morning that I was having one of my spells. But I didn't want Liam to come home to no dinner, so I dragged myself out of bed. I knew for a fact that Patricia had been fine that morning. She'd done a full reorganization of the linen closet before I'd left for coffee. But I also knew that saying so would only make things worse. I'm sorry, Patricia. I lost track of time. It's fine, Patricia said in a tone that clearly meant it was not fine. I'm just not used to people being so cavalier about responsibilities. But perhaps that's a generational thing. Liam shot me a look that said, "See what you've done?" Then he went to his mother and put his arm around her shoulders. "Come on, Mom. Let's get you sitting down. You shouldn't have to do all this when you're not feeling well. Charlotte can finish up." As I moved into the kitchen to take over, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked tired, defeated. Was this who I was now? The thought scared me more than I wanted to admit. 2 weeks later, things came to a head in the worst possible way. It was a Saturday morning and I'd been up early trying to clean the apartment before Patricia woke up. I'd learned that getting things done before Patricia could supervise was the only way to avoid constant criticism. I'd mopped the kitchen floor and was moving the space heater we'd been using. The apartment's heating system wasn't great and the October chill was setting in. The space heater was one of those portable ones with a flat top, and we'd been placing it near the dining table to keep warm during meals. I'd just finished mopping and was sliding the heater toward the wall out of the way when Patricia emerged from the bedroom. "What are you doing with that?" Patricia demanded. "Just moving it out of the way so the floor can dry." "Well, don't put it there. I like it by the table. The apartment is freezing in the mornings." I paused, the heater halfway across the floor. "But I just mopped. If I put it back now, it'll leave marks on the clean floor." "Then you should have thought of that before you started mopping." Patricia walked over and reached for the heater herself. "Really, Charlotte, it's not that complicated. Please, just let me finish." I tried to move the heater toward the wall, but Patricia was pulling it the other direction. For a moment, we were engaged in an absurd tug-of-war with a space heater in the middle of a damp floor. And then Patricia's foot slipped. It happened so fast. One moment she was standing, the next she was falling, her arms windmilling as she tried to catch her balance. She landed hard on her side, her leg crumpling beneath her at an awkward angle. The scream that came from her was piercing. "Oh my God." I dropped to my knees beside her. "Are you okay? Don't move, let me help you." "Get away from me." Patricia shrieked. "You did this. You pushed me." "I didn't push you. You slipped on the wet floor. You pushed me. I felt you push me." Patricia was crying now, her face contorted in pain and anger. "My leg. Oh God, my leg. Liam. Liam." Liam came running from the bedroom where he'd been sleeping. "What happened?" He took in the scene, his mother on the floor, me standing over her, the wet floor, the space heater. "She pushed me," Patricia gasped. "I was just trying to move the heater and she pushed me. I think my leg is broken." "I didn't push her." My voice was rising. "She slipped on the wet floor. I was trying to tell her to wait until it dried, but she wouldn't listen. If you are Liam, will you believe I did not push her?" "Call 911, Liam said, his voice like ice. He knelt beside his mother, cradling her head. "It's okay, Mom. We're going to get you help." The ambulance arrived within 15 minutes. 2 paramedics, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a young woman with efficient movements, carefully examined Patricia. "It looks like a fracture," the male paramedic said. "We need to get you to the hospital for x-rays." As they carefully loaded Patricia onto a stretcher, she looked up at Liam with tears streaming down her face. "Don't leave me alone, sweetie. Please come with me." "Of course, Mom. Of course I will." Liam turned to me, his expression hard. "You should probably stay here." "But I want to come, I want to make sure she's okay. I think you've done enough." His voice was quiet but cutting. Then he was gone, following the stretcher out the door. I stood alone in the apartment, the floor still damp beneath my feet, my heart pounding. How had this happened? How had a simple accident turned into an accusation? I cleaned up the floor in a daze, put away the space heater, and then sat on the couch staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Liam. "Fractured tibia. She needs surgery. Will be at Northwestern Memorial. Don't know when I'll be home." My hands trembled as I typed back. "I'm so sorry. Please tell her I'm so sorry." No response. Patricia came home 3 days later with a cast on her leg and a dramatically increased sense of grievance. The surgery had gone well, but she'd need 6 to 8 weeks of recovery. Liam had taken time off work to help care for her, and the apartment had transformed into something like a sick ward, with Patricia ensconced on the pull-out couch, a small table beside her covered with medications, water bottles, and the television remote. I'd tried in every way I knew how to apologize. I'd sent flowers to the hospital. I'd prepared Patricia's favorite foods. I'd offered to help with anything that was needed, but Patricia would barely look at me. And when she did speak to me, her voice dripped with cold civility. "Could you please hand me that pillow?" "No, not that one, the other one." "Thank you. The room is too cold." "Could you adjust the thermostat?" "No, that's too warm." "Find somewhere in the middle." "I'm hungry, but I don't want anything heavy. Maybe some soup? But not that canned garbage. Something homemade." Liam, meanwhile, was attentive to his mother's every need. He brought her magazines, adjusted her pillows, sat with her watching her favorite shows. With me he was distant and cool. Finally, one evening about a week after Patricia had come home, I cornered him in the kitchen. "Liam, we need to talk." "I'm busy." He was preparing a tray of food for his mother. Crackers, cheese, grapes, all arranged carefully. "Please. Just for a minute." My voice cracked. "You've barely spoken to me since the accident. I know you're upset, but it really was an accident. I didn't push her." Liam set down the knife he'd been using to slice cheese and turned to face me. His expression was hard. "My mother says you pushed her. She's wrong. She slipped on the wet floor. I tried to warn her." "Are you calling my mother a liar?" The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. "I'm saying she's mistaken. In the confusion of falling, she probably—" "My mother is not senile, Charlotte. She knows what happened. And frankly, given how you've been treating her, I'm not surprised it came to this." I felt as if I'd been struck. "How I've been treating her?" "Liam, I've done nothing but try to make her comfortable. You've made it abundantly clear that you resent her being here. The constant sighing, the attitude, the way you disappear for hours when you know she needs help. Did you think I wouldn't notice? That's not fair. I've been trying my best." "Your best?" Liam's voice rose. "Your best is hospitalizing my mother? It was an accident. So you say." He picked up the tray. "I need to bring this to her. She hasn't eaten all day." "Liam, please, what do you do when the person you love refuses to see your pain?" But he walked past me without another word, leaving me alone in the kitchen with tears streaming down my face. That night I barely slept. I lay on the air mattress in the bedroom staring at the ceiling, while Liam slept on the floor beside his mother. Around 3 in the morning I heard voices from the living room, Patricia and Liam talking in low tones. I shouldn't eavesdrop. I knew I shouldn't. But something compelled me to creep to the bedroom door and press my ear against it. "Don't trust her," Patricia was saying. "I know you love her, sweetheart, but some people aren't what they seem." "Mom, that's a bit extreme, is it?" He pushed me. "Liam, I know what I felt. And even if you want to give her the benefit of the doubt on that, look at how she's treated me since I arrived. The constant attitude, the way she undermines everything I try to do to help. I raised you better than to let your wife treat your mother this way." "I know, Mom. I've talked to her about it." "Have you really though? Because I don't see any change. If anything, she's gotten worse. And now look at me, I'm injured, helpless, and I still don't feel safe in this house." There was a long pause. Then Liam said quietly, "What do you want me to do?" "I'm not saying you should do anything drastic. But maybe it's time to really think about whether this marriage is working out. You've only been married 2 months. An annulment wouldn't be that complicated." My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a gasp. "Mom, I can't just—" "I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, as your mother, as someone who loves you more than anyone else in this world, I want you to be happy. And from where I'm sitting, you don't look happy. Neither of you do. Maybe this was all a mistake. I need to think about this." "Of course, sweetheart. Take all the time you need. I just want what's best for you. That's all I've ever wanted." I crept back to the air mattress, my entire body shaking. Patricia was actively trying to end my marriage. And Liam was actually considering it. I curled into a ball and cried silently into my pillow until dawn broke. The next 2 weeks were a special kind of hell. Patricia's recovery meant she needed help with almost everything. Getting to the bathroom, bathing, preparing meals, reaching items from high shelves. As the only one home during the day, I became her de facto caregiver. But Patricia made every task as difficult as possible. "You're helping me walk too fast. Slow down. The bath water is too hot. Do you want to scald me? This meal is bland. Didn't you add any seasoning? Those aren't my medications. Check again. No, those aren't right either. Can't you read labels? I gritted my teeth and endured it all, trying desperately to be the bigger person. But every day I felt a little more of myself disappearing. I'd had to drop one of my night classes because I couldn't leave Patricia alone in the evenings. I'd stopped seeing friends because Patricia always seemed to have an emergency right when I was about to leave. I'd gained weight from stress eating and lost sleep from anxiety. The Saturday night plans with Jasmine and Keisha had been cancelled when Patricia had a dizzy spell that required me to stay home. They tried to reschedule 3 times but something always came up. Liam, meanwhile, had become almost a stranger. He came home from work, cared for his mother, and barely acknowledged my existence. We hadn't had a real conversation in weeks. We certainly hadn't been intimate. Hard to do when you're sleeping on an air mattress and your mother-in-law is in the next room, but even beyond that, the emotional distance between us had grown into a chasm. One evening in late October, I finally broke that I'd spent all day catering to Patricia's needs, only to have Patricia declare at dinner that the chicken was dry, the vegetables were mushy, and the entire meal was barely edible. Liam had jumped in to defend his mother, suggesting that maybe I needed to try harder with my cooking. Something inside me snapped. Try harder. My voice was shaking. I have been trying harder every single day for 2 months. I've cooked, cleaned, cared for your mother, given up my bedroom, my privacy, my life. And it's never enough. Nothing I do is ever enough. Liam looked shocked. Charlotte, calm down. No. I won't calm down. I'm tired of being treated like I'm the problem when I've done nothing but try to make this work. Your mother hates me, Liam. She's hated me from the beginning and you refuse to see it. That's not true, Patricia interjected from her spot on the couch. I don't hate you, Charlotte. I'm just disappointed. You're not the woman I hoped Liam would marry. But hate? Oh, that's too strong a word. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. You see. I turned back to Liam. Did you hear what she just said? But Liam's face had gone red with anger. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. Maybe you should go for a walk and cool off. I don't need to cool off. I need you to listen to me. I need you to see what's happening here. What's happening, Liam said, his voice dangerously quiet, is that you're having a meltdown in front of my injured mother. You're being dramatic and disrespectful. I think you should apologize. I stared at him, this man I'd married, this man who was supposed to love and protect me. And I realized in that moment that he was never going to choose me. Not over his mother. Maybe not over anyone. No, I said quietly. I'm not going to apologize. I haven't done anything wrong. Then maybe you should leave, Liam said. For tonight. Go stay with a friend. Come back when you can be rational. You're kicking me out? I'm suggesting you take some space. Clearly you need it. I looked at Patricia, expecting to see triumph in the older woman's eyes. And it was there, unmistakable and ugly. Without another word, I grabbed my purse and my phone and walked out of the apartment. I didn't even pack a bag. I just needed to get out, to breathe, to think. I sat in my car for a long time, my hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide where to go. Finally, I pulled out my phone and called Jasmine. Charlotte? Hey, what's? Can I stay with you tonight? My voice broke. Please. Of course. Come right over. I'll make up the guest room. Jasmine lived in a cozy 1-bedroom apartment in Bronzeville, close to the hospital where she worked. When I arrived, Jasmine took one look at my tear-stained face and pulled me into a fierce hug. Okay, Jasmine said once we were settled on her couch with mugs of chamomile tea. Tell me everything. And I did. Everything that had happened since Patricia moved in, all the small cruelties and the big conflicts, the accident with the space heater, Liam's coldness, and finally tonight's confrontation. When I finished, Jasmine was quiet for a long moment, her expression stormy. I'm going to say something and I need you to really hear me, Jasmine finally said. What's happening to you is abuse. Emotional abuse from Patricia, and emotional abuse from Liam for enabling it. But. No buts. Charlotte, listen to yourself. You're making excuses for behavior that is systematically breaking you down. This isn't about cultural differences or adjusting to having a mother-in-law around. This is about 2 people who are deliberately making you feel worthless. Liam isn't. Liam is absolutely doing that. Maybe not consciously, but the effect is the same. He's gaslighting you, making you doubt your own perceptions and feelings. He's isolating you from your support system. He's prioritizing his mother's wants over your basic needs. That's abuse, honey. I felt tears starting again. What do I do? First, you stay here as long as you need. Second, tomorrow we call your dad. Jasmine. I know you don't want to, but you need to. You need support from your family, and your dad would want to help you. I was quiet, turning my mug in my hands. He's going to be so disappointed. He's going to be worried and concerned, yes. Disappointed? Only in Liam, not in you. You haven't done anything wrong. We talked late into the night, and eventually I fell asleep on Jasmine's couch, emotionally exhausted but feeling safer than I had in weeks. The next morning I woke to the smell of bacon and eggs. Jasmine was in the kitchen, and there was someone else there too. A man's voice, deep and warm. I sat up, confused, and saw Jasmine talking to Pastor Michael Davis, my father. Dad. I stood up quickly. What are you, how? Pastor Davis crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled me into his arms. He was a tall man in his 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes that could see right through any pretense. Jasmine called me this morning, he said softly. Told me you needed your father. So here I am. I burst into tears against my father's chest, and he just held me the way he had when I was a little girl with scraped knees or hurt feelings. Eventually we all sat down and I told my father everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing more concerned with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Baby girl, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. My heart sank. What? I never fully trusted Liam. I wanted to for your sake. But something about him always felt incomplete. Like he was performing the role of a good man rather than actually being one. Why didn't you say something? Because you loved him. Because you were happy. Because sometimes a parent's job is to let their child make their own choices, even when those choices worry you. He took my hand. But I should have said something. I should have warned you. I failed you in that, and I'm sorry. You didn't fail me, Dad. I did. But I'm not going to fail you now. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay with me for a while. Not at Jasmine's, she needs her space and you need your family. You're going to take some time to think about what you really want. And then we're going to figure out next steps together. But my things are still at the apartment. We'll get them. Today if you want. I'll come with you. Liam is going to be so angry. Let him be angry. His anger is not your responsibility. Pastor Davis's voice was firm. You are my daughter and you deserve to be treated with love and respect. If Liam can't provide that, then he doesn't deserve you. I felt something shift in my chest. A tiny spark of the person I used to be before I'd spent months trying to shrink myself to fit into Liam's life. Okay, I said quietly. Okay, let's go get my things. We arrived at the apartment around noon, my father, me and Jasmine. Jasmine had insisted on coming as backup. I'd texted Liam that I was coming to pick up some belongings, but he hadn't responded. When we opened the door, Liam was sitting on the couch, his laptop open in front of him. Patricia was in her usual spot, her cast propped up on pillows, watching a talk show. Liam looked up and his eyes widened when he saw who I'd brought with me. Hit the subscribe button, link and comment. Pastor Davis, he said, standing quickly. I didn't know you were coming. My daughter needed me, my father said simply. And I should have been here sooner. Patricia spoke up from the couch. Well, this is quite the production. I suppose Charlotte has been telling you all sorts of terrible stories about us. She's been telling me the truth, my father replied, his tone even but firm. And I'm not here to argue or negotiate. I'm here to help Charlotte get her belongings and to make sure she's safe. Safe. Liam's voice rose. What are you implying? I would never hurt Charlotte. There are many ways to hurt someone, son. Physical violence is only one of them. The room fell silent. Jasmine stayed near the door, her arms crossed, while I moved toward the bedroom to start packing. Charlotte, wait, Liam called out. Can we talk? Alone. I paused, looking at my father. He nodded slightly. Your choice. Hey, I said. But just for a minute. We went into the bedroom and Liam closed the door. For a moment he just looked at me and I saw something in his eyes that might have been regret. I don't want this to end, he said quietly. I know things have been hard, but we can work through it. We're married, Charlotte. That means something. Does it? My voice was tired. Because from where I'm standing, your marriage vows meant choosing your partner first. Leaving and cleaving, remember? But you never left your mother. You brought her into our marriage, into our home, and then you let her tear us apart. She didn't. Yes, she did. And you helped her. Every time she criticized me, you stayed silent or agreed with her. Every time I tried to talk to you about how I was feeling, you dismissed me. You kicked me out of my own home, Liam. You chose her over me again and again. She's my mother. She needed help. And I'm your wife. I needed help too. I needed you to stand up for me, to support me, to see what was happening, but you didn't, you wouldn't. Liam ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. So what, that's it? You're just giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm choosing myself. For the first time in months, I'm choosing myself. What does that mean? I took a deep breath. It means I need space. Real space, not just a night away. I need to stay with my dad and figure out what I want. And you need to figure out whether you're capable of being a husband, or if you're always going to be your mother's son first. That's not fair, maybe not. But it's honest. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started filling it with clothes. I'll come back for the rest of my things later. Charlotte, please. I turned to face him. Did you mean it? When Patricia suggested you get an annulment. Liam's face went pale. You heard that. I heard it. Did you mean it? Were you actually considering ending our marriage because your mother told you to? The silence that followed was answer enough. That's what I thought, I said quietly. I zipped the duffel bag and walked to the door. Then I paused and looked back at him. I loved you, Liam. I really did. But I'm starting to realize that the man I loved might not actually exist. He might have just been a performance, like my dad said. And I deserve more than that. I left the bedroom and found my father and Jasmine still standing by the door. Patricia was watching us all with cold eyes. I hope you're satisfied, Patricia said to me. Breaking up a family. Causing all this drama. I suppose this is how you were raised. My father stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of 30 years of ministry. Ma'am, I raised my daughter to know her worth. I raised her to be kind, compassionate, and strong. I raised her to stand up for herself and to recognize when she's being mistreated. If that's how she was raised, then I'm proud of that. But I will not stand here and let you speak about her or about me with disrespect. Patricia's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Charlotte, my father continued, are you ready? Yes, I said, feeling stronger than I had in weeks. I'm ready. As we walked out of the apartment, I heard Liam call my name one more time. But I didn't turn around. I just kept walking, my father on one side and Jasmine on the other, toward whatever came next. The first week at my father's house in South Shore felt like emerging from a dark tunnel into sunlight. Pastor Davis's home was a modest 2-story house near the church, filled with books, family photos, and the comfortable clutter of a life well lived. My childhood bedroom was exactly as I'd left it when I'd moved out for college. Faded floral wallpaper, a bookshelf full of young adult novels, posters of bands I'd loved in high school. It felt like traveling back in time, to a version of myself who still believed in fairy tales. But my father didn't baby me or try to solve all my problems. Instead, he gave me space and support in equal measure. He made sure I ate regular meals. He invited me to join him for his morning prayers if I wanted to, but didn't push when I wasn't ready. He introduced me to a counselor from the community, a woman named Dr. Lorraine Hughes, who specialized in helping women navigate difficult relationships. I'm not going to tell you what to do about your marriage, Dr. Hughes said in our first session. That's your decision to make. But I am going to help you understand the dynamics that got you here, and give you tools to make sure you never lose yourself like that again. Over the following weeks, I began to piece together what had happened. With Dr. Hughes's guidance, I learned about narcissistic family systems, about golden children and scapegoats, about how some people are conditioned from childhood to prioritize others' needs over their own. I learned that what Patricia had done to me wasn't just unpleasantness or a personality clash. It was a calculated pattern of behavior designed to establish dominance and control. I learned that Liam's inability to stand up to his mother likely stemmed from a lifetime of being emotionally manipulated, but that understanding the cause didn't excuse the effect. Most importantly, I learned that I wasn't crazy, I wasn't weak, and I wasn't to blame. During this time, Liam called and texted constantly, "Please come home, we can work this out, I miss you. Mom says she's willing to try to get along better. This is ridiculous. You're my wife. You belong here. How long are you going to punish me? The messages ran the gamut from pleading to angry to manipulative. I showed them all to Dr. Hughes. Notice the pattern, Dr. Hughes pointed out. He never once acknowledges what he did wrong. He never apologizes for not supporting you. He never takes responsibility. Instead, he's trying to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. I stopped responding to most of the messages. When I did reply, I kept it simple. I need space. Please respect that. Patricia mercifully hadn't tried to contact me at all. As Thanksgiving approached, I faced a dilemma. Liam expected me to come back to the apartment for the holiday. My father wanted me to stay with him. And I wasn't sure what I wanted. I was sitting in my father's kitchen helping him prepare pie crusts for Thanksgiving dinner, when he finally broached the subject. Have you made a decision about Liam? My hands stilled on the rolling pin. Not really. I don't know what I want, Dad. Part of me still loves him. Or loves who I thought he was. But I don't know if that person ever really existed. That's a fair assessment. My father was mixing apple filling, his movements practiced and sure. Can I tell you what I see? Please. I see a young woman who's been trying so hard to be the perfect wife that she forgot to ask whether her husband was trying to be a good partner. Marriage is a partnership, baby girl. It requires both people to show up, to support each other, to have each other's backs. From what you've told me, Liam has never done that for you. But he was so good to me before we got married. Was he? Or was he just on his best behavior because he hadn't locked you down yet? The question hit me like a physical blow. Had there been signs? Had I missed them? I thought back to our dating years. Liam had been charming, yes. Kind of. But had he ever really been interested in my thoughts, my dreams, my goals? Or had he mostly talked about himself, his job, his ambitions while I listened and supported? When I'd had a bad day at work, had he comforted me? Or had he suggested ways I could have handled it better? When I'd expressed concerns about his mother's coolness toward me, had he reassured me? Or had he told me I was being oversensitive? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the relationship had always been about Liam's needs, Liam's feelings, Liam's family. I'd just been too in love, or too conditioned to put others first, to notice. I don't think I'm going back, I said quietly. Not to the marriage. Maybe not even for Thanksgiving. My father came around the counter and kissed the top of my head. Then don't. Stay here. We'll have our own Thanksgiving. I'll invite some folks from the church and we'll have a good time. You don't owe Liam anything, Charlotte. Especially not your presence at a holiday meal. He's going to be so angry. Let him be angry. His feelings are not your responsibility. It was the same thing Jasmine had said. And slowly I was beginning to believe it. Day before Thanksgiving. I won't be coming for dinner tomorrow. I need more time. His response was immediate and explosive. My phone rang within seconds. Are you serious right now? Liam's voice was tight with anger when I answered. You're really not coming? I told you I needed space. It's been 3 weeks, Charlotte. How much space do you need? And now you're going to embarrass me by not showing up for Thanksgiving? This isn't about embarrassing you. This is about me taking care of myself. Taking care of yourself, he repeated mockingly. That's all you've been doing since my mother moved in. Taking care of yourself, thinking about yourself. Do you have any idea how selfish you sound? Something inside me hardened. You know what, Liam? You're right. I am being selfish. And it feels amazing. Because for 3 months I put everyone else's needs before my own. I catered to your mother, I walked on eggshells around you, I bent over backward trying to keep everyone happy. And where did it get me? Kicked out of my own home. I didn't kick you out. You told me to leave. You chose your mother over me again. So yes, now I'm choosing myself. And I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. If you don't come tomorrow, don't bother coming back at all. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. Is that a threat? I asked quietly. It's a promise. I'm done with this, Charlotte. Either you're my wife or you're not. You need to decide. Okay. My voice was surprisingly steady. I've decided. I want a divorce. The words shocked me as much as they shocked Liam. I hadn't consciously planned to say them. But once they were out, I knew they were true. Liam was silent for a long moment. Then, you're going to regret this. Maybe. But I don't think so. My mother was right about you all along. You're not strong enough to be a Mitchell. You're absolutely right, I said. I'm not. But I'm strong enough to be a Davis. And that's enough for me. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter than I had in months. I walked into the living room where my father was reading and said, "Dad? I think I need to find a divorce lawyer." My father closed his book and smiled sadly. "I'll help you with that. And Charlotte? I'm proud of you." The next few weeks were a blur of legal paperwork, difficult decisions, and emotional ups and downs. I hired a lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Monica Chin who specialized in divorce cases. Monica took one look at my situation and said, "This is going to be straightforward. You've only been married a few months, there are no children, no significant shared assets. We can probably get this done quickly." "That's good," I said. "I just want it to be over." Liam fought it, of course. He called repeatedly, sent long emails detailing all the ways I was making a mistake, even showed up at my father's house one evening demanding to see me. My father had answered the door and firmly but kindly told Liam, "Son, you need to go through the proper legal channels. Charlotte has made her decision and you need to respect it. She's my wife. She's a grown woman who has the right to choose her own path. Please leave." Liam had left, but not before shouting loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "This is your fault. You poisoned her against me." The whole neighborhood had seen and I'd felt mortified. But my father had just put his arm around me and said, "Let them see. Let them know what kind of man he really is." Patricia, meanwhile, had apparently moved back to Detroit. Liam had mentioned it in one of his emails. Something about how the stress of the divorce was too much for his mother to handle, so she'd gone home to recover in peace. I felt a grim satisfaction at that. Patricia had gotten what she wanted, me out of the picture. But now she was stuck dealing with her son's anger and disappointment. Jasmine visited regularly, always bearing gifts, good wine, funny movies, chocolate, once even a t-shirt that said, "Divorced AF," even though I wasn't officially divorced yet. "Too soon?" Jasmine had asked, grinning. "Maybe a little," I'd laughed. But I'd kept the shirt. Keisha, whom I'd finally gotten to meet properly, also became a good friend during this time. Keisha had been through her own difficult divorce a few years earlier, and she had sage advice. The hardest part is not doubting yourself. People are going to judge you, especially when the marriage was so short. They're going to assume you didn't try hard enough. Don't let them make you second-guess yourself. How do I do that? By remembering the truth. You tried. You tried so hard it almost broke you. And trying isn't worth anything if the other person isn't trying too. By Christmas, the divorce was progressing smoothly. Liam had finally stopped fighting and agreed to the terms. We'd divided our minimal shared possessions. I got the kitchen stuff, Liam kept the furniture. I'd signed over my half of the security deposit on the apartment. It was all very businesslike and sad. I spent Christmas with my father and the church community. The congregation had embraced me, surrounding me with the kind of unconditional love and support I'd been missing. Nobody judged me for the divorce. Nobody suggested I should have tried harder. They just loved me. On Christmas Eve, the church held its traditional candlelight service. I sat in the back watching my father deliver a sermon about hope, about new beginnings, about the light that comes even in the darkest times. "Sometimes," my father said, his voice carrying through the small church, "the death of one thing is the birth of another. Sometimes we have to let go of what we thought our life would be so we can embrace what it actually is. That's not failure. That's courage." I felt tears streaming down my face, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release, of acceptance, of a grief that was finally being allowed to exist. After the service, as people were filing out, an older woman from the congregation stopped beside me. "I don't know if you remember me," the woman said. "I'm Mrs. Patterson. I taught your Sunday school class when you were little." "Of course I remember you," I said, standing to hug her. "I want to tell you something, dear. About 30 years ago, I was in a marriage that wasn't good for me. My husband, God rest his soul, he wasn't a bad man, but he wasn't the right man for me. And back then you just didn't get divorced. You stuck it out no matter what. So I did. For 42 years I stuck it out." Mrs. Patterson's eyes were sad but kind. "He passed away 5 years ago, and you know what I felt? Relief. Finally I could breathe. Finally I could be myself. But I'd wasted 42 years. She took my hands in her own. "Don't waste your years, sweet girl. You did the brave thing. Don't let anyone tell you different." I hugged her tightly, finding comfort in the older woman's words. January arrived with fresh snow and new possibilities. I'd finished my coursework and would be getting my teaching degree in May. I'd found a new apartment, small but bright in the Pilsen neighborhood, close to a school where I'd just been offered a position as a full-time teacher starting in the fall. The divorce would be final by March. I was rebuilding my life piece by piece and discovering who I was outside of being Liam's wife. I'd started going to a yoga class with Jasmine. I'd joined a book club at the local library. I'd reconnected with old friends from high school and college whom I'd let drift away during my relationship with Liam. One Saturday afternoon I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer it. "Hello, Charlotte. This is Rita Mitchell, Liam's aunt. We met at your wedding." My stomach clenched. "Oh. Hi, Rita. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from the church directory, your father's church, that is. I hope that's not too intrusive." "It's fine. What can I do for you?" Rita sighed. "I wanted to apologize to you. And to tell you something you should know." "Okay. Patricia, my sister-in-law, she's done this before. With Liam's first girlfriend, the one he was serious about before you. Her name was Angela and she was lovely. But Patricia made her life hell until Angela finally gave up and left. I watched it happen and I should have warned you. I should have said something at your wedding when I heard Patricia already making plans to fix you. But I didn't, and that was cowardly of me. I'm sorry." I sat down heavily on a box. "There was someone before me. Angela Torres. They dated for 3 years. She wanted to marry him and he wanted to marry her. But Patricia convinced Liam that Angela wasn't good enough, that she would hold him back. And Liam, well, Liam has never been able to stand up to his mother. He chose Patricia then just like he chose her now. I suspect he'll keep choosing her until he finally realizes what he's lost." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know it wasn't you. It was never you. You could have been perfect and Patricia still would have found fault. That's who she is. She can't share her son with anyone. And Liam, God love him, he's too weak to break free. You didn't fail, Charlotte. They failed you." After we hung up, I sat in my half-unpacked apartment, processing this new information. There had been someone before me. Someone who'd gone through the same thing. And Angela had been smart enough to leave before marrying into that dysfunction. I had gone through with the wedding, but at least I'd been smart enough to leave after. I thought about reaching out to Angela, finding her somehow, connecting with someone who would truly understand. But then I decided against it. Angela had moved on with her life. I would too. I went back to unpacking, putting books on shelves, hanging curtains, making this place my own. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. March brought the official end of my marriage. I stood in the courthouse, signed the papers, and walked out a single woman once again. It should have felt sad, but instead it felt like freedom. Liam wasn't there. He'd had his lawyer handle everything. I was grateful for that. I didn't think I could face him without feeling a complicated mix of anger and pity. According to Jasmine, who'd heard through mutual acquaintances, Liam was still living in the same apartment. Patricia had indeed moved back to Detroit, though she visited frequently. He was dating someone new, a woman named Emily who worked at his company. I hoped Emily was stronger than I had been. I hoped Emily would see the red flags and run. But mostly I tried not to think about it at all. My life was full of new things now. I'd started volunteering at my father's church, running a program for young women about self-esteem and healthy relationships. I'd made new friends through the book club. I'd even been on a few casual dates, though nothing serious. I wasn't ready for that yet. In May, I walked across the stage at DePaul University and received my teaching degree. My father was in the audience, beaming with pride. Jasmine and Keisha were there too, cheering so loudly that people turned to look. "That's my girl," Jasmine shouted, completely unashamed. After the ceremony, we all went out to dinner at my favorite Italian restaurant in Little Italy. Over plates of pasta and glasses of wine, we toasted to new beginnings. "To Charlotte," my father said, raising his glass, "who had the courage to choose herself and the strength to build a new life. I've never been more proud." "To Charlotte," everyone echoed. As I looked around the table at these people who loved me, really loved me, not conditionally, not with strings attached, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Yes, my marriage had failed. Yes, I'd been hurt. But I'd survived. More than that, I'd grown. I was no longer the woman who'd walked out of that apartment building in tears. I was someone stronger, wiser, more certain of my own worth. Summer arrived with warm sunshine and longer days. My new apartment had a small balcony where I'd set up a few potted plants. Tomatoes, basil, flowers. Every morning I'd have my coffee out there watching the neighborhood wake up. My teaching job started in August and I was excited but nervous. 3rd grade at Funston Elementary, a diverse school in the Albany Park neighborhood. I'd already met some of my future colleagues at orientation and they seemed welcoming and warm. One Saturday in late June I was at the farmer's market in Logan Square when I quite literally bumped into someone. A tall man with kind brown eyes who'd been reaching for the same bunch of sunflowers I'd been eyeing. "Oh, I'm sorry," we both said at the same time, then laughed. "You take them," the man said. "I can find others." "No, please, you were here first." "How about we split them?" He smiled and I noticed he had a dimple in his left cheek. "Half for you, half for me. That way we both win." "That's very diplomatic of you. I'm a middle school counselor. Diplomacy is kind of my thing." He extended his hand. "I'm David. David Chen. Charlotte Davis." I shook his hand, noting the warmth of his grip. "Wait, Chen? Any relation to Monica Chen, the divorce lawyer?" "He's my sister." "Why do you?" His eyes widened slightly. "Oh, you're a client of hers." "Was. The divorce finalized a few months ago." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't be. Best decision I ever made." David's smile widened. "Monica said her newest client was remarkably brave. I'm guessing that was you." We ended up buying the sunflowers together and then somehow found ourselves having coffee at a nearby cafe. Then coffee turned into lunch. Then lunch turned into a walk through the neighborhood. David was easy to talk to. He didn't pry about my divorce, though I found myself telling him some of it anyway. Not the painful details but the broad strokes. He listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or asking thoughtful questions. He told me about his own life. The middle school where he'd worked for 6 years, his passion for helping kids navigate difficult times, his love of cooking learned from his mother, his weekend hobby of woodworking. "I'm not very good at it yet," he admitted. "But I'm learning. There's something meditative about it, you know? Taking a piece of wood and shaping it into something useful and beautiful. Like people," I said. "Taking someone who feels broken and helping them see they're actually just being reshaped." David looked at me with something like wonder. "Exactly like that." When we finally parted ways as the sun was setting, David asked if he could call me sometime. I hesitated. Was I ready for this? Could I trust my judgment after Liam? But then I remembered what Dr. Hughes had told me in our last session. Don't let one bad relationship make you afraid of all relationships. You're wiser now. You know what red flags look like. You know your own worth. Trust yourself. "Yes," I said. "I'd like that." 3 weeks later, on a Wednesday evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "Charlotte, this is Patricia Mitchell. I need to talk to you. It's about Liam. It's important. Please call me." I stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct told me to delete it, block the number, pretend I'd never seen it. I owed Patricia nothing. But curiosity got the better of me. I called Jasmine first. "Do not call her back," Jasmine said immediately when I explained. "It's a trap. She probably wants to guilt you into something." "But what if Liam is actually in trouble? What if something happened to him? Then she can call your dad or your lawyer or literally anyone else. She doesn't get to have access to you anymore, Charlotte. You've moved on." I knew Jasmine was right. But later that night, lying in bed unable to sleep, I found myself wondering, what if Liam was sick? What if he'd been in an accident? What if, despite everything, he needed help? I compromised. I texted Patricia back. "If this is a genuine emergency regarding Liam's health or safety, please provide details via text. Otherwise, please don't contact me again." The response came within minutes. "He's not physically hurt. But he's not well. Depressed. Not eating. Emily left him. He asks about you sometimes. I think I may have made some mistakes. Could we meet? Just once. Please." I read the message 3 times. Patricia admitting she'd made mistakes? It seemed impossible. I screenshot the message and sent it to Dr. Hughes asking for advice. Dr. Hughes called me immediately. "Charlotte, I want you to really think about this. What would meeting with Patricia accomplish? What do you hope to get out of it? I don't know. Maybe closure? Maybe understanding. Do you need those things from her? Or have you already found them within yourself? It was a good question. I thought about it. I had found closure. I had moved on. I didn't need Patricia's validation or explanation. But there was a tiny part of me, the part that still believed in redemption and second chances, the part that had been raised by a pastor who preached about forgiveness, that wondered if maybe, just maybe, Patricia had genuinely changed. I'll meet with her, I said finally. But only in a public place and only if my dad can be there too. That's wise, Dr. Hughes said. And Charlotte, whatever happens, remember, you don't owe her anything. Not forgiveness, not understanding, nothing. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, you can leave. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Chicago, neutral territory for everyone. I arrived with my father on one side and Jasmine on the other. She'd insisted on coming as backup. Patricia was already there, seated at a table in the corner. She looked different than I remembered. Smaller somehow. Older. Her perfectly styled hair had more gray in it and she wasn't wearing makeup. She looked, in a word, defeated. When she saw me, she stood up awkwardly. Charlotte. Thank you for coming. Pastor Davis. And, Jasmine, is it? That's right, Jasmine said, her voice cool. I'm here to make sure this stays civil. We all sat down. The air was thick with tension. Patricia twisted her hands in her lap. I don't really know where to start. The beginning is usually good, my father said, his voice neutral but not unkind. Patricia took a deep breath. I was wrong. About everything. The way I treated you, Charlotte, was inexcusable. I see that now. I told myself I was just trying to help, that I was teaching you, but really I was trying to drive you away. I said nothing, waiting. Liam told me about Angela, Patricia continued. His Aunt Rita, she called him and told him everything. How I'd done the same thing to Angela. How I've been controlling his life since he was a child. How I've never let him be his own person. Tears were rolling down Patricia's face now. He was so angry. He said terrible things. True things. He moved back to Detroit to be close to me after Leonard died, but now he won't even speak to me. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. And I was sorry despite everything. Not for Patricia's pain exactly, but for the waste of it all. The relationships destroyed, the damage done. I don't expect you to forgive me, Patricia said. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I see what I did. I see how I hurt you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The apology hung in the air. I'd imagined this moment many times. What I would say if Patricia ever acknowledged her behavior. I'd imagined feeling triumphant, vindicated, satisfied. But now that it was happening, I mostly just felt sad. Sad for the time wasted, for the pain caused, for the woman sitting across from me who'd been so consumed by her own fears and needs that she'd destroyed her son's marriage and now his relationship with her. Thank you for telling me that, I said finally. I appreciate the apology. Is there any chance at all that you and Liam might? No. My voice was firm but not unkind. That's over. It was over the moment he chose you over me, and it stayed over through everything that followed. I've moved on, Patricia. I hope Liam can too. Patricia nodded, wiping her eyes. He deserves better than what I've given him. You deserved better too. We talked for a few more minutes. Surface level things, nothing deep. Then Patricia stood to leave. I meant what I said, she told me. I am sorry. I hope you have a wonderful life. I hope you find someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated. After she left, Jasmine let out a long breath. Well, I did not see that coming. Neither did I admitted. How do you feel? My father asked. I thought about it. Lighter somehow. Like I can close that chapter completely now. She apologized, I accepted it, and now I can really move on. Can you forgive her? My father asked. Eventually, maybe. But not yet. And that's okay. I smiled at my father. You taught me that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It means releasing the hold that hurt has on you. And I think I did that today. Fizzy, will you forgive them? Will you give love the second chance? Did Al take the best decision? Comment on the comments section. By September, my new life had fully taken shape. My third grade class was a delightful chaos of 23 energetic 8-year-olds who kept me on my toes every day. I loved it more than I'd expected. The lesson planning, the creative projects, the moment when a struggling student finally understood a concept they'd been working on. My apartment was fully decorated now, filled with books and plants and art from local galleries. It felt like home in a way the apartment with Liam never had. And I was dating David Chin. Really dating, not just coffee here and there but actual relationship dating. We took things slowly, both of us mindful of not rushing. We went to movies and museums. We cooked dinner together at his place or mine. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. David was different from Liam in every way that mattered. He asked about my day and actually listened to the answer. He supported my career and celebrated my successes. When we disagreed about something, which restaurant to try, which movie to see, how to spend a weekend, he compromised rather than insisting on his way. Most importantly, he saw me. Really saw me. The whole person, not just the parts that were convenient or flattering. One evening in late October, almost exactly a year after that terrible day with the space heater, David and I were walking through Lincoln Park, enjoying the fall colors. David had been quiet for a while and I could tell he was thinking about something. "What's on your mind?" I asked. He smiled. "You're getting good at reading me. That's what happens when you actually pay attention to." I raised an eyebrow. "That's unexpected." "Not in a weird way, I promise. I was just thinking about how his loss became my gain. If he'd been a better man, I never would have met you." "That's a strange way to look at it." "Maybe. But I'm grateful to him in a way. He let you go and now I get to be with you. I get to watch you be brilliant and funny and kind and strong. I get to be the one who supports you and celebrates you and just enjoys you." I felt tears prick at my eyes. "You know what the best part is? A year ago I would have thought you were too good to be true. I would have waited for the other shoe to drop for you to show your real colors. But now I know you're just actually good. And I deserve that. You absolutely deserve that." We kissed there in the park, surrounded by falling leaves and the last warm sunshine of the season. The following October I was in my classroom after school, grading papers and preparing lessons for the next day, when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Monica Chin. "Thought you should know. Got a call from Liam today. He wanted to know if there was any way to reverse the divorce." I told him no, obviously. "Just a heads up in case he tries to contact you." I stared at the message for a moment, then smiled and texted back. "Thanks for letting me know. I'll block his number if he tries." But Liam didn't try to contact me. He knew better apparently. Or perhaps he'd finally learned that some doors once closed should stay closed. That evening I had dinner with my father at his house. Over pot roast and mashed potatoes, comfort food from my childhood, we talked about everything that had happened in the past year. "I'm proud of you, baby girl," my father said. "You turned a painful experience into wisdom and strength. That's not easy to do." "I had good help," I said, squeezing my father's hand. "You, Jasmine, Dr. Hughes. I couldn't have done it without all of you. But you did the actual work. You made the hard choices. You rebuilt your life." He paused, then said carefully, "David seems like a good man." "He is." "Is it serious?" I smiled. "It might be. But I'm not in a hurry. I'm enjoying getting to know him. Enjoying letting a relationship develop naturally without pressure or expectations." "That's wise." My father smiled. "You know, I performed a wedding last week. Young couple very in love. And during my sermon I found myself thinking about your wedding, about the things I said about choosing wisely and building strong foundations. I worried that maybe you'd think I was wrong or that marriage itself was the problem." "Marriage isn't the problem," I said. "Bad partners are the problem. Toxic dynamics are the problem. People who don't respect each other are the problem. I still believe in marriage, Dad. I just believe in it with the right person now." "Good. Because I'd like to perform your wedding again someday. When your Christmas Eve." On Christmas Eve I attended the candlelight service at my father's church, just like I had the year before. But this time I wasn't crying tears of grief. I was smiling, surrounded by friends and community. David was there too, meeting more of my church family. They'd welcomed him warmly, just as they'd welcomed me back after my divorce. Mrs. Patterson, the older woman who'd shared her story the previous year, hugged me tight. "Look at you," she said. "Just glowing. This is what happens when you choose yourself." "Thank you for what you told me last year," I said. "It helped more than you know." After the service, as people were filing out into the snowy Chicago night, David pulled me aside. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his coat pocket. "It's not a ring or anything serious like that. We're not there yet and I know you're not ready. But I wanted you to have this. He handed me a small wrapped box. I opened it to find a delicate wooden pendant on a silver chain. The pendant was carved into the shape of a phoenix, its wings spread wide. I made it, David said. In my woodworking shop. I know it's not perfect. The details aren't quite right and I probably should have sanded it more. But I wanted you to have something that symbolized what you've done. You rose from the ashes, Charlotte. You rebuilt yourself stronger than before. I felt tears streaming down my face as I fastened the necklace around my neck. It's perfect. You're perfect. Well, not perfect, nobody's perfect. But you're perfect for me. He kissed me there on the church steps 2 years later. I stood in the small backyard of my father's house, the afternoon sun filtering through the trees. It was a beautiful Saturday in June and the garden was in full bloom. I was wearing a simple cream-colored dress. Nothing fancy, nothing extravagant. Just something that made me feel beautiful and like myself. Jasmine was next to me wearing a deep purple dress as maid of honor. Keisha was there too along with several friends from the church and my school. And at the other end of the makeshift aisle standing beside my father was David Chin, looking at me with so much love that it took my breath away. This wasn't a big wedding. There were maybe 30 people total. No fancy venue, no expensive flowers, no stress about impressing anyone. Just the people who mattered, celebrating a love that had grown slowly and steadily into something real. As I walked toward David, my father officiating and beaming with joy, I thought about how far I'd come. From the woman who'd been broken down by a toxic relationship to the woman I was now. Strong, confident, loved. I thought about Patricia and Liam and I felt nothing but peace. I'd heard through Rita that Patricia was in therapy working on herself. That Liam had moved to Boston for a new job trying to start fresh. I hoped they found happiness, though their happiness was no longer my concern. My only concern was the man standing before me, looking at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. My father began the ceremony with words about love. Real love, not the fairy tale kind, but the kind that shows up every day, that supports and challenges and grows. Marriage, he said, is not about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who complements you. Someone who sees your strengths and celebrates them, who sees your weaknesses and loves you anyway. Someone who chooses you every day, not just once at an altar. When it was time for the vows, David spoke first. Charlotte, I promise to always see you, really see you. I promise to support your dreams and celebrate your victories. I promise to listen when you speak and to speak up when you need me to. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. Not because I have to, but because I can't imagine doing anything else. Then it was my turn. My voice was strong and clear. David, I promise to trust you with my heart, knowing that you'll treat it with care. I promise to be honest even when it's hard. I promise to grow with you, not just beside you. I promise to choose myself while choosing you, because I know now that the best partner is someone who wants me to be fully myself. I promise to love you not perfectly but truly for the rest of my life. When my father pronounced us married and we kissed, the small crowd erupted in cheers. Jasmine whistled so loudly that everyone laughed. At the reception, a casual barbecue in the backyard, I found a quiet moment to stand alone, watching the people I loved eating and laughing and celebrating. I touched the phoenix pendant that still hung around my neck. I'd worn it every day for the past 2 years, a reminder of where I'd been and who I'd become. Thinking deep thoughts? David appeared beside me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Just grateful, I said, leaning back against him. For everything. For surviving. For growing. For finding you. I'm the grateful one, he said. I get to spend the rest of my life with the strongest woman I know. I smiled. Not the strongest. Just strong enough to know my own worth. And that's all anyone needs to be. We stood there together, watching the sun set over Chicago, the city that had witnessed my lowest point and my greatest triumph. The city where I'd been broken and where I'd put myself back together. And I knew with absolute certainty that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. 5 years after my divorce, I sat in my home office, a converted spare bedroom in the house David and I had bought in Oak Park, writing in my journal. It was a habit I'd kept up since my divorce, this ritual of reflection and gratitude. I wrote about my day teaching, about the funny things my third graders had said, about the dinner David and I had cooked together. I closed the journal and looked out the window at the tree-lined street, peaceful in the evening light. From the living room, I could hear David's laughter as he talked on the phone with his mother. I touched the phoenix pendant. I still wore it even now and smiled. Yes, I'd made it. And it had been worth every difficult step of the journey. How do you stay kind to someone who treats your kindness like weakness? You know, being respectful doesn't mean allowing disrespect. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. And at what point do you stop waiting for them to change and start choosing yourself? Healing doesn't begin with their apology. It begins with your decision to stop tolerating the pain, learn to seek help, speak out. Thank God for a friend like Jasmine who was always there for her advice. Left with me, Al may not have the courage to speak up. I used to think silence made me strong. That keeping quiet was the price of respect. But now I see, silence only made them louder. The whispers. The judgment. The control. So I stopped explaining. I stopped apologizing. And I started speaking, for the woman I used to be and the woman I refused to become again. It is not too late to be that woman you wish to be. To all the women passing through similar situations, this is my advice to you. You don't have to keep pretending everything's fine. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to say no. Because silence doesn't protect your home, it only protects their control. You deserve peace too. To every woman going through this, don't let fear silence your truth. You are not weak for setting boundaries. You are not disrespectful for demanding peace. And you are not alone. The world may judge, but your healing matters more than their opinions. If you're living in a house that doesn't feel like home anymore, you don't have to suffer quietly. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. And respect shouldn't require silence. Speak up because your pain is real and your peace is worth fighting for. To the woman crying in silence, telling herself to just endure a little longer, I was you. And I promise the day you choose peace over people's opinions, everything changes. You'll breathe again. You'll smile again. You'll feel like you again. Let them talk. Let them judge. Because when the story is yours, their opinions don't matter. Stop shrinking to fit the version of you they're comfortable with. You weren't made to stay silent. You were made to rise. So many of us were raised to believe that being quiet is being good. But silence doesn't make you good. It makes you disappear. Speak up. Tell your story. Because the moment you do, another woman will find the courage to tell hers. To every woman praying for strength, God hears you. But sometimes his answer isn't stay strong. Sometimes it's stand up. You can love them and still walk away. You can forgive them and still choose peace. You don't owe the world your silence. You owe yourself freedom. The courage to speak up might cost you some people, but it will return you to yourself. And that's the most powerful homecoming there is. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification button for more interesting topics.